Hi, it's Erkan here. So we're at Team Hard's HQ, and the reason I'm here today is because we're actually going to run an interview with some of the people that are involved in a high performance team. I don't think you can think of any more high performance than competitive car racing, and that's done within the Volkswagen Cup. And our driver, Simon Rudd, has been competing in this series for 2 years, and I've been coaching him for the last year. And we put this video together to really kind of start to show people how high performance teams operate and what's involved and how many different aspects there are into producing breakthrough results. I had the privilege of working with Simon and his father, Phil Rudd, and we brought them in on an interview that you're going to see in a moment, along with the sponsors and the team boss, Tony Gillam. So watch the video, see what you think, and pick out the key elements that make a team able to produce breakthrough results. Hi, I'm Erkan Ali from B Collaboration, and I work with business owners and their teams. And recently I started working with Simon Rudd, who is a racing driver who competes in the Volkswagen Cup. So Simon, how did your racing career get started? How did it all come about?
Well, Dad used to do karting from as I was growing up, so it was just one of those natural things where I sort of took an interest in it. Mum and Dad had a karting business as well. They still have, so it's always sort of been in the family. And I've just grown up knowing that that's sort of the number one sport for Dad. So yeah,
it's not just a passion, it's actually a way of life for you and your family. It's something that's been around.
It's something that's around all the time with us, yeah. So for the last 26 years.
So I imagine it kind of went from a bit of fun to something that got a bit more serious. I understand you did a lot of single-seater and karting. And how was those early years for you? You know, I mean, when did it start becoming more than just fun?
Yeah, well, from what I remember, Dad took me down to Buttmore and he went, have a sit in this kart. And then the next thing I know, we walk out and we've bought it. And then we go home and tell Mum, and she wasn't very happy with that. I remember that, saying it was too dangerous and things like that. So we did that, we did karting for about 13 years, I think. And it's getting to a point where the budget wouldn't stretch far enough to go out and do the real competitive world championship stuff that maybe we thought we could have done. So we got talking to some people, made some contacts, and ended up in Formula 4 for a few rounds, which is then when it was completely different. It was at start again.
So I imagine money is always a big factor in this. So we're going to come over. We're going to be speaking to Steve from Elsfab, Steve Richards, and also bring your dad into conversation on how you go about, raising money so you can achieve, a competitive vehicle.
From when you're younger, like most of the younger kids now don't realise the cost behind it. So when I was growing up with it, I was like, oh, we'll just have this and new tyres here, new tyres there. And then as you get a little bit older, you start understanding the financial side of it. So.
And the reality of being around track and getting competitive, I mean, I'm sure it's not all gluck and see. There's a lot of disappointment. How do you manage to deal with that?
Yeah, like the race weekends are, like from looking on the outside of it, it's great. And everyone thinks, oh, you drive cars, you do this, you do that, and it is, you have a great time. But from the 20-minute sessions that you're in the car, everything outside of that, you're working.
There was a turning point from when it was just some fun, and yes, son, get in this car and go and enjoy yourself because it's something we're interested in, to something that actually is more a career activity.
Yeah, I mean, it was always fun initially from my point of view. And then as you start getting more competitive is when it starts to become a bit more serious. So we started getting a bit more competitive, and then we moved the karting series and then started winning stuff, and then that's when you start. So we got to a level where we couldn't really go much further. And then I think it was either going to be either stop karting and go car racing or just stop karting completely.
Right, and that's a big transition from, say, karting to cars.
Yeah, and it's like a lot more effort that goes into it. You can't just turn up, jump in a cart and go fast. There's a lot more stuff behind the scenes that happens, and a lot more focus that you need.
The thing that I was surprised when I first got trackside is how friendly everyone is towards each other. Everyone's rooting for everyone to do well. Obviously, there's still that that competitive area in finishing on the in the race time. But when that's over, everybody just seems to go back to just talking, sharing ideas, and everybody knows what everyone's up to. And I started to talk to Phil, your father, about the opportunity of working with you. And I was just wondering, how would you describe your performance for yourself and how you held yourself prior to us kind of working together?
This is one of those other things, like aspects that people don't realise that you do in karting. You don't really, I say, need it. It doesn't make as much of a difference. But in cars it does, and it's proven that it has made a difference. So yeah, I think before, where I struggled was going from winning everything in karting to not winning. Just being one of the pack, as
opposed to being at the...
Yeah, exactly. And that's quite hard to deal with when you're so used to winning. And so you start getting hard on yourself, and you need someone there to sort of break that down.
You was finishing up 13, 14s, 18s, 20s last year, and this year we just saw you breaking into the top 10, which was the original remit we had, and then suddenly you finished the last race of the year on pole. Yeah. Started the last race of the year on pole, 40-minute race. You brought you brought the car in second, end up on the podium, which I think was a great testimony to everybody involved. I don't think it's just about coaching. It's about all the other elements involved as well.
I think that's part of it. We had, we were much more prepared with the budget this year. We were a lot more prepared coming into it. We'd had a season. The cars were much better. The work, the coaching that we did, it all come together at the end of the season.
Great. Okay. Phil, you're just a frustrated racing driver living your life vicariously through your son, right?
Absolutely. My hero, Nigel Mansell, I could have done that easily. Yeah. Given the opportunity.
So, but there's one thing about wanting something in life and then actually taking the steps, not only just the commitment steps of what's involved with something like motorsport. So when you first got Simon into a car, what were you thinking?
Yeah, that's what Laura said. Yeah, I mean, I found karting late. I was 30 before I found karting, really by mistake, and fell into it with a friend of mine. And obviously Simon was around, ever since he was that high. We went around with another friend of mine who raced MGs at the time, and we got involved in that. And it's not like, karting's not like it is now. You couldn't really start karting till you were 8 or 9 years old. So Simon started when he was 10. But now you can start at 4 years old. So the youngsters these days basically have got an opportunity of maybe 4 years on drivers of. And
I guess during those formative years, that experience is foundational.
It becomes a natural. Yeah. But when we first tried Simon in the kart to see if he'd like it, we had a homemade kart, which Simon's forgotten about. We've got a picture on the wall.
Yes, I know what I made you.
And it was made up of some scaffold poles, and for the better description. And Simon used to drive that up and down the driveway at the back of the house, And then we just stuck him in a car. And the time that I realised that I thought he might be quite good at it is that it was a little bit damp. We went out in the car, and back end got away, and he corrected it straight away. And I thought that was natural. That wasn't a taught thing, because he was too young to teach. And it really went on from there. And that's how we got involved in it. We as DJ Motorsport arrange arrive and drive karting events, so that was actually funding the karting, and that's how we used the business to fund Simon's karting.
How have you seen him develop, and where do I think one of the things you were saying earlier was really producing great results, and then going from single-seater and karts into Volkswagen, saloon cars, it kind of weren't producing those results at the time.
There was a period of time over about 5 years, we just had to put Simon in a car, and it would be on pole, and he'd disappear off into the distance and win the race. We achieved 5 times winning the Le Mans 24-hour kart race, of which Simon drove 13 hours in one of them. Not all at once, but over the 24 hours. Was it 5?
You're proud of that, Simon?
I am now. I wasn't at the time.
No.
I've still got the pictures.
Is he really harder on himself than, you know?
Oh, yeah.
I know Simon kind of gets...
I've still got the pictures at 4 o'clock in the morning, Erkan. Come on, Simon, you're getting out. Because he had to get out of bed and go and drive. No, I don't want to do it. And you still got the lap record there, you know, and things like that. Then we did a world record, you know, and achieved...
So tell me more about the world record.
The world record is for the furthest distance covered by a cart in 24 hours. And that was a
Just
team
the
of,
sheer distance that the cart travelled in that time.
That's all you had to do.
Is that still current?
That's still current, yeah.
Kept that quiet.
That's been...
Do you not know about it?
No. I didn't know about it.
Yeah, so like Dad said, it was the longest distance, 24 hours by a motor-powered cart, something like that. I think, can't remember the exact name of it. So there was 4 of us that did it. We did it at Teesside because it had to have a certain amount of corners on it. You couldn't just drive in a straight line, otherwise it'd be a bit easy. So yeah, that was back in 2007, I think.
Right. So and you started 17 laps behind on that one?
No, that was Le Mans.
That's
That was Le Mans, yeah.
That was the Le Mans one. Okay.
Yeah.
So Le Mans one, you started 17 laps behind.
Yeah, because our engine broke on the rolling lap after we qualified pole, and we had a deduction of laps anyway to try and make it fair for everyone else because we kept winning it.
And what does it take to produce those kind of results? It's not just about talent, is it? It's about a lot of other things. I mean, that coming together. That's the kind of one of the reasons we're putting this video together, is to give people insight into what it takes to produce, you know, breakthrough results of high performance teams.
Well, like Le Mans, for example, we had 3 drivers, and so Russell, one of the other drivers, would also be the guy that does all the strategy. So we'd sit there for hours discussing our strategy and the ifs and buts about it all, because you could have the 3 fastest drivers, but if your strategy's not right over 24 hours, then you've got no chance. And so some of the calls they made,
or whatever, but as a team.
Yeah, some that they worked. Some, I remember one change to the strategy they made, which really annoyed me whilst I was on the track, and I came in. They just pulled me in, refueled me, and sent me out again. And I'm going around thinking, well, why have we just done that? Because we've just come out the pits. But then, you know, you get explained after, and we won it again. So
there's a lot of trust involved in a team, isn't there? Because you've got to kind of hand off, or you've got to leave certain things for other people, that they've got that bit covered, and you've got to kind of go with it.
Yeah, I mean, for me, is that everyone involved has got to want to win.
Desire.
Yeah, it's great if, you know, in that example, if you had someone in the team that thought, oh, that strategy will do, then, you know, we probably wouldn't win. And so everyone's got to want to win, and that's the same with this. Is that, you know, I've got to want to win, Dad's got to want to win, Steve and the sponsors have got to win. Now you've got to want to win. You know?
And on that note, finishing, you know, starting pole on the last race of the year, which is double the time of all the other races, so it's a 40-minute race. I remember you coming over to me going, I'm pole, like this, and we sat down and we talked it through. Do you remember?
Yeah, I think.
Do you remember much of that conversation, how it went?
I do, and my problem I had at that stage is because it was new to everyone else, it wasn't new to me, because I've done this plenty of times on the kart track, so I knew what I was doing. But we had a lot of people there, and a lot of people were asking me, you know, do I feel nervous? Do I feel pressure? Am I going to win? And they were setting that expectation, and that's what I struggled with. I needed someone, you know, that from a neutral point of view that knows what's happened and where we are, that's not putting more pressure on me.
It's like
you know
taking
what I mean? Yeah.
So one of the ways I describe coaching is taking the things that are in the way to perform.
Yeah.
So we can sort of say from this conversation, the raw talent's there, the ability, but then other things get in the way.
Yeah.
Pressure from the team, don't want to let people down. What about, you know, then, and also on that race you had 30 odd cars right behind you waiting to kind of take your place, aren't they? That's the whole point of the race.
Yeah, it was weird because, you know, it wasn't new to me.
No.
You know, I knew what I had to do. I was quite comfortable, but when the constant flow of people who are really excited that you're on pole, it's something completely new to them.
Yeah.
And it's so, you know, I wanted to take myself away from that environment and just sort
What
of
do you
chill
remember
out.
from the conversation we had? How would you recall it?
I remember that we sat down in the VW tent, and one of the things that sticks out was that I was starting on pole. I had a 40-minute race, and I had to finish the race. Take out all the drama of the ifs and buts in between.
It was just we've got to get into the actual
Yeah.
factual side of it.
Yeah.
And the drama disappeared.
The drama, yeah, just not having the drama, which that drama was being created by other people and not by me.
Okay.
But then it gets into your mind, and so that conversation just flushed it.
And then, you know, I was up in the stands watching you, and I was just like, saw you, you took a lead. You actually took a lead at one point, and I guess everyone was tussling behind you, which is perfect. And then there came a point where, because I think you were getting caught by one of the drivers, and I remember sitting back talking to the person I was with, what would you do? And I said, I think you should let the guy pass him. And I would talk about how much maturity that would require rather than getting into competition for first place. And it was almost like 25 minutes into the race. Is that right, if I remember right? And then I can't remember who it was. Was it Epps?
Mike, yeah.
Yeah. And he come up behind you. And what was going through your mind? You're holding. I mean, was it maturity? Was it you felt?
I think it was. I think, like, you know, as we drove out onto the track for the warm-up lap, I went back to my karting day. So I was just being a nuisance on the warm-up lap. You know, speeding up, slowing down, just sort of winding the people up behind me, so they couldn't really, warm their tyres up and get their preparation that they wanted. And it come around to the last corner, and I just slowed right down to probably about 10 mile an hour, backed everyone up so that no one could do their practice starts and just things like that, just like it used to.
Sounds a bit.
but that's what I used to do when I was winning, and I thought, well, why do I want to change that?
And you hadn't had a chance to do that for a while, had you? In that
No,
with that
not at all.
level of pole.
No. So we did that, like say, did the 25 to about 20 minutes in, and I knew Mike was catching me, and I knew he was quicker than me anyway. So I just thought, well, we've got a lead here, and Mike was my teammate as well, so I knew nothing silly would happen. And I thought, well, let's just sit on the back of him, you know, let's not cause too much hassle until the last 8 minutes maybe, last few laps, and then we'll give him a go and see what we've got. But
I mean, for me, it looked like a very mature drive. I mean, I was really. How was it for you, Phil? Watching, you know, I bet your heart was in your mouth watching that race.
No, it's strange because that's where I'm used to sitting. I get more nervous when he's back in the middle of the pack because that's where you get incidents happen.
And there's more around you.
Not so much of the good drivers in the middle of the pack. Out in front, that's where we're sort of back to.
So do you feel like a return back to the balance of things rather than.
I mean, Donington Park has got a ridge now, just down at the end of the straight where I was pacing up and down. But I had the same problem as Simon had before the race, as people were coming up to me saying he's going to win this, he's going to do this, he's doing really well, and I just really didn't want to talk to anybody, just wanted to disappear. Because quite often the karting, I would just go and disappear somewhere in a corner and just watch the race and enjoy it.
Yeah, I remember Brands Hatch, and you coming up to me and saying, I don't like this track. Do you remember that conversation?
yeah, and I think that's just because I've driven that track so many times now. It's like I'm not bored of it, but I just
So there was history there shaping you, and what do you say about Brands Hatch now?
it's best track in the world.
Best track in the world, right? The conversation was flipped, and you got yourself back on the tarmac. It was just a bit of tarmac, best track in the world, and you went out that day. And I think, can't remember where you finished, to be honest with you, but
It was inside the top 10.
it was in the top 10, which you weren't achieving that previously. So that's fantastic. Phil, just times when you felt like quitting?
Oh yeah, definitely. But I think that's like anything. You always in life have times that you think I'd do something else, But then you wake up again the next morning and just go, yeah, great, let's get on with it. And I enjoy it as much as Simon does, actually watching it. But yeah, we have down days, you have good days, and that's life.
And what would you say to a young driver now coming through, apart from start at 4 years old? What would you say to them? What do they need to be thinking about? I mean, there's a certain maturity and a certain guidance.
Yeah, it's a great way to grow up with motorsport, as it is with any other sport, football or cricket, because there's a camaraderie between the players. You referred to it earlier, teammates when we were talking. Plus you've got something in common. You meet people from different walks of life doing the same sport that you love. If there's anything that I'd say to any youngsters coming up through motorsport that want to be world champions, forget that. Go and have a good schooling, have a good education, get a good job, and then go and do motorsport as a hobby. If somewhere in that 20 years you get a break and get up to be a professional driver with a big team like Lewis Hamilton did when he was 12 at Buckmore Park, that's fantastic, but they're rare. So that's what I would say to them.
What are your plans, Simon, for the future? And how, what is it? What would be you're back in Volkswagen Cup next year?
We hope so.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
is that
the
waiting
plan.
to be announced, or is that?
I think we got some work to do over the winter,
Right.
to bring it all together. And it's looking promising, but we'll just wait until we.
You finished on a high. That puts I guess that puts a certain amount of expectation.
It's good, but we can feed off of that.
Right.
So when we're talking to people and things like that, we finished second at the last race, and people will then start taking a little bit more interest from the racing point of view.
So
there's a lot more.
on that result. And what about British touring? I mean, is that something you've got because there's a number of drivers that kind of progressed to British touring. Even Tony Gillam, our team boss at Team Hard, was finishing the last few races in British touring. Stuart Lyons, and there's a number of other drivers that have ended up in British touring. Is that something you've got your eyes on?
Oh yeah, I'd love to do it, but I'd much rather do a season in there rather than a one-off race with a.
So you get yourself committed to that.
Yeah.
Steve, thanks for being so patient. So you are a sponsor of a Volkswagen Championship competing car. What originally attracted you? Why put money into somebody's racing career so you can have a badge on a car? What's your thinking?
It's something that I've never really been involved in, never really paid much attention to, and having a conversation with Phil one day, said, Simon does it, and it's a new season, we're looking for sponsorship, and it's just something that kind of, in a business point of view, it seemed like quite a good idea. Phil had a lot of contacts in the industry, we was a new company, just started up, and so we did the first year, we had a little bit of sponsorship, nothing major, and it was great. Phil introduced us to a lot of, a few new companies, a few contacts, which turned out to be good when we started work with them. And then when the next year came along, we've been to a few races, started to get the bug for it, and said, I think we want to go a bit bigger this year. I'm starting to get the feel, so we got the colours, company colours on the car. Everybody's saying, well, it looks really good. People are paying a lot of interest to it, and it's good for us.
Yeah, so overall it has to give you a return on the investment, because obviously it's a commercial, I imagine it's a commercial decision, especially if you're not a piston head, it's not just about being trackside.
Yeah, I mean, obviously commercial wise it's an investment, and every investment you need a return, and I think we've got that return probably 100 times over, not just from Jackson's, but all the new contacts and all the new business from it.
And I imagine it's not just about putting the sticker on the car, it's how you develop yourself, how you build your relationships with people. And on that note, how important are relationships in the context of this motorsport and sponsorship?
They're vital. You're correct, no one pays to put a sticker on a car anymore. In my day, you'd go along, knock on the door to your local firms and say, I want to go motor racing, stick a sticker on the car and give me 500 quid. It doesn't happen that way. It's a business now. I think it was Frank Williams that said, 6.5 days of the week he's a business, and half a day of the week goes racing. Everything is a business. And the money that's involved now in motorsport, you do have to have a return on the sponsor's investment. If I can get to the end of every season with all the sponsors getting back all of their money, preferably making a bit of money out of it at the same time, it's a great opportunity for the future.
Imagine with your team manager hat on, it's almost like you're juggling loads of things. You've got your driver, happens to be his son, you've got a vehicle and a team that are preparing the car, You've got sponsors. I mean, I don't know how many sponsors you've got in total, but it's obviously a number of sponsors that you've got to keep happy. And I imagine they've all got different interests,
Yeah.
different levels of risk or
Yeah.
commitment to the project.
Yeah.
So you're kind of a real mediator. You're kind of the hub of everything, putting everything together.
Yeah, you have to find out what the sponsor wants from it. That's the key to it, and then achieving it. You know, it's no good in saying, you know, come on board and we'll get you loads of business, because that won't happen. They have to be on board with it. They have to be bought into the idea of making the car a business-to-business opportunity. And once you've got that relationship with people, you introduce them to other people that are involved with the car. They all do business with each other, and it expands. Yeah, and then everybody hopefully wants to be involved
Again,
the following season.
let's go again.
Because
Yeah.
you know, if they can come back and say, well, it's cost me hardly anything. We've had a few days out, a few beers, and whatever. Great.
Yeah. And what about loyalty? How does loyalty fit into all of this? I mean, how would you, what would you say about loyalty or long-term? I suppose that's what long-term relationships are, loyal, aren't they? You kind of stand by each other through the tougher times.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, last season, not this season gone, but that season before that was a very tough time for the car and Team Hard back.
Yeah, it's vital. There has to be a lot of trust in it, a lot of loyalty in it. And when you first join a team, we were actually going single-seater before we came here. And we were approached by Mike Joseph at RCIB, who's plastered over most of the touring cars this season. We went to see him, and it was him that introduced us to Tony because of their previous relationship. And then you have the relationship with Tony. He does his best for you. He enables, he's a bit of a facilitator to make things happen so that we can bring people like Steve on board, and he benefits from it, and you know, the other sponsors that we have. From my point of view, for instance, as Jackson, we do the lifts for RCIB. First thing he did was, we can come and do my lifts then. So I got a return straight away from it.
That was
And that's how
master stroke.
Yeah, but that's how it all works.
That's how it works.
And
what about the car? It's a Volkswagen Golf. Looks like a Volkswagen Golf. Is there much more to it than that, Simon?
Less of it.
Yeah, no, of course. There's, you know, it's all stripped out. It's literally got a gear stick, a seat, and a steering wheel in it.
A couple of wheels on.
A couple of wheels on the side. It's a 260 brake, so 2-litre turbo. Oh yeah, they're quick. You know, they look like a Golf, like you say, but there's a lot more underneath the bonnet than meets the eye.
And this year you had a new car, didn't you, from the beginning of the year? In fact, this car here.
Yeah, it was completely refurbished.
Yeah, which I imagine made a big difference to your competitive.
I think probably made about a second a lap difference.
Doesn't sound like a lot, does it? But when you add
Doesn't sound like a lot, but over a race distance, it's a lot. So yeah, the boys did a good job. Tony's done a great job in investing in the Golfs, and last round of the season we had a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it just proves how far we came from the year before, when I don't think 5 cars finished.
You know, the previous year was quite a tough year for everyone involved, and to finish the final race of the year with the top 5 positions is incredible.
We had a decision to make at the end of last year. You know, do we stay? Do we move? Do we, you know, what do we do? And I'm glad that we've stayed. And Tony makes a huge contribution to getting me on the track as well. And so yeah, we've got a very good relationship with him, and which is the main thing. You can go to another team and maybe not have that relationship, or they might do something differently that maybe you don't like. Whereas now it's sort of, we've got like an open relationship.
Yeah, he's very sociable, Tony. I think he's very passionate about it. You know, I'm coming from a very neutral position, obviously supporting you in doing well, but as what he's turned around this last year is definitely fantastic. It shows a lot of resilience on his behalf.
He describes it as a family, and your sponsors are part of that family as well. Steve's part of that family, you know. So it doesn't just stop at the drivers, it doesn't just stop at Tony and, you know, the number 1 mechanics. It's right the way through the team. We'll all have a hug at the end of the day, you know. And, you know, don't shake hands, it's all a cuddle, you know. A bit strange.
Team Hard, you punch each other.
It's a bit strange with the team name and, you know, what we're doing. The first time it's a bit difficult, you know, but yeah, that's the way it is. But, you know, you if you've got a good team manager, it'll always work, and we've had some downs and we've had some good. And I think the drivers that Tony may sign for 2016, including Simon, I think you'll be surprised at the names that are now being attracted to the team because it's being successful. However, we've been there from the start, and there's a loyalty from Tony to his existing drivers.
Believed in him when probably it was very challenging times. Steve, anything else you'd like to add that we haven't covered? Going to get into a car and get on track soon?
Well, the track days, I
already.
think that's one of the reasons
Three
probably why
times.
Simon doesn't like Brands Hatch so much anymore. But yeah, a few track days, and they're always great fun.
Yeah.
You know, the money goes to a good cause. It's all for the car, and without,
Go on.
yeah, without the money, you know, they wouldn't be able to do what they do.
Yeah.
And definitely the best team. Definitely the best team on a race day. They're the most noisiest.
Definitely. There's most of them as well, I think.
Yeah, the most noisiest. Yeah, and probably the biggest followed.
That's the thing. Like Steve's been there since we started in the VW Cup, along with Jackson's and VTS as well. But we're obviously doing something right because Steve's with us. You know, he's been with us for the last 2 years. Hopefully, he carries on to next year, and he's got the colours this year, and so. You know, we're obviously doing something right. He's happy, and he's not bad in the car.
Phil, anything for you summing up?
No, but they're just like to, you know, it's all a jigsaw. You know, I always say it's a jigsaw, or make it simpler, a fruit machine. If you're in motorsport, you can have the best driver in the world, but if he hasn't got the backing of sponsors and a team and everybody and family, very important, to put up with traipsing up and down the country every weekend during the summer. You know, you have to wait for the little cherries to line up on the fruit machine, and then when those cherries line up, like they did at the last race at Donington Park.
It's a phenomenal experience, isn't it?
Yeah.
Simon, from my point of view, I've really enjoyed working with you. I mean, one of the things when I first spoke to your dad about, you know, having a conversation with coaching you and supporting you, the hardest thing is people to go, yeah, I want to do it. You know, once people say they want to do it, they're doing it for themselves. And I found you to be very, you took on everything. And some of the stuff I said to you is quite out there. You know, sometimes I've challenged your thinking. And I found you to be completely amicable, completely up for it. You produced the results this year. And I think we've demonstrated in this video that there's a lot of elements involved, from finance to someone, you know, coordinating things, to the guy getting in the car driving, the coaching, the team and the hardware. I just say I'm very proud, I'm sure we all are, of you, and it's been fantastic. Anything you'd like to say just to finish off our interview?
No, I mean, it's been a good season. I think it's been a much better season than last year. Like I say, the preparation was key to that, from the funds at the beginning, from the coaching that we've done throughout the season, from, you know, I've got a little bit more involved this year with the finances and talking to sponsors and things like that, so try and take a little bit of weight off of Dad, although he can still ferry me around the country next year.
So you got your driver sorted.
So yeah, you know, it's been good, and like next year we just got to go one step more.
Okay, Steve, thank you. Phil, really appreciate you being here. Simon, fantastic year last year. You should be really proud. So really, hope that's given you some insight in what it takes to produce a performing team. Everything from raising the funds to organising things and putting the strategy and planning, the talent, you know, the human element behind the wheel, and obviously some coaching to support it and make it all happen. And obviously Tony couldn't be here today, but we'll be doing some catch-up interview with him later. I want to thank you for watching. So if you've got any questions or you want to find out more about how we can help you produce breakthrough results, please get in touch. Thank you. So you've just seen a great interview with different people involved in Simon Rudd's Volkswagen Championship campaign. Everything from Tony Gillam, our team boss, to Simon's dad, Phil Rudd, who's involved with gathering sponsorship and supporting Simon throughout the season. Also the critical point of sponsorship and raising the money that puts this rubber on the road. I've really enjoyed the interview, and I think there's a lot of really interesting lessons to be learned from what it takes to make it happen. I think for me, resilience is the key word. It's just keep going, and keeping the end in mind. I want to thank everybody for their involvement. I want to thank David for videoing this, and everybody that was involved in the interview and their generosity in sharing what has made Simon's Volkswagen Championship campaign so interesting last year and got him onto the podium and finishing second in the last race of the year. So thank you everyone, and I hope you enjoyed the video.